So by the end of this class, you are gonna be able to impress any guests at a gathering with this meal that's gonna look like $1,000,000. Hi everybody, I'm Sasha Sincic. I'm a private chef and I'm here with the Desire Company. Today we're gonna be making crispy maple Dijon chicken tenders. All you need for this class is a sheet pan, a good cutting board, knife, chicken tenders, maple syrup, panko breadcrumbs, Dijon mustard, mayonnaise, all-purpose flour, a little bit of canola oil cooking spray, a microplane or zester, aluminum foil, fennel bulbs, and carrots. Take your time, be confident, and know that whatever you're doing, this recipe will work for you. So the crispy part is actually gonna come from panko breadcrumbs that we're gonna go ahead and toast in the oven. And there are two different types of breadcrumbs. There's regular and then there's panko. So be sure you grab this because these get a little crispier in the oven. All right, so I'm gonna measure out about a cup. This is a 1/4 cup measuring cup, so I'm just gonna do a couple rounds of this. It's okay if it's a little bit over because you're just gonna dredge the chicken in this. It doesn't have to be exact. So the important part is to spread them out in a really thin layer. You wanna make sure all of the little panko kernels get toasted. If any of them are kind of covered, they're not gonna get nice and brown in the oven here. Just gently tap and they'll actually disperse, which is a nice little trick here. Now I'm gonna grab a cooking oil. I recommend doing like a canola or something that has a high smoke point. If you use like a coconut oil, it might actually taste a little bit like coconut, and that's just not what we're going for this recipe. So you're just gonna lightly spray the top just a few times, just like this. 1, 2, just so it gets nice and coated, but it's not drenched in oil. So I've got an oven preheated to broil, which is how we're gonna toast these breadcrumbs. Now, the key to this, since the broilers are so hot, you wanna literally stand here and watch it toast, because the second you take your eye away, they're probably gonna burn. Okay, so now we have our panko breadcrumbs nice and toasted. What we're gonna do is take this aluminum foil, because this is still pretty warm. We're just gonna kind of fold it up and make a little bit of a funnel, because we're gonna dump these into an empty bowl. All right, so just like this, fold it up. Toss it right into the bowl here. Look at those. See, nice and browned and beautiful. We didn't even have to deep fry them, which is great. All right, so just to cut down on waste, you can just reuse this piece of aluminum foil. We wanna line this baking sheet with a baking rack. What this does is it allows for the heat to travel all the way around your chicken tenders so you get crispy on all sides and not just the surface. So the next thing we're gonna do is we're gonna change our oven from broil to 425 degrees, because this is what we're gonna be baking our chicken tenders at. The next thing we're gonna do is we are gonna make our batter to dip our chicken tenders in. So I've just got some chicken tenders. They actually come already cut like this, so all you have to do is just open the package and they're ready to go. So what we're gonna do is make the batter here. First, you're gonna measure out some flour. So we just want 2 tablespoons of flour. All right, so we'll do 2 tablespoons of flour. All right. And then the next thing we're gonna do is we actually are going to make a sauce. We're gonna make a Dijon maple sauce. That's actually gonna work double duty on another recipe. So we're gonna do equal parts maple syrup and Dijon mustard. I like to use a whole grain Dijon versus just a smooth, because it just adds a little bit more texture and it actually looks really pretty if you're gonna be dipping into the sauce or finishing the sauce. So I'll take about a 1/4 cup of each. So I'll measure that out. Once again, this doesn't have to be exact. It's a sauce, and if you have a little bit extra, that's just extra dippage. So I'll place that into a bowl. Now we will measure out our maple syrup, just equal parts, like I said, and it doesn't have to be exact, so don't stress yourself on that. So we've measured those 2 items out, and all you do is just mix it up here. So you just want to get it so it's nice and incorporated evenly. And it turns this lovely amber color. And with the mustard seeds from the whole grain, it just looks beautiful. All right, so we're actually gonna utilize some of this sauce into our batter as well, so we can flavor the tenders. So I'll just take a couple tablespoons, that's 2 tablespoons of the sauce into the batter here. Now we'll set this to the side and we'll use this for the dipping sauce, and it can be used for another recipe. All right, the next thing we're gonna add is a little bit of mayo. This is gonna act as a little bit of a binding agent. Do 2 tablespoons of that. If you wanted to and you didn't want to use mayo, you could use Greek yogurt or regular yogurt for this. You just want something nice and creamy that coats your chicken tender and it will stick to the panko breadcrumbs. That's really the reason for the creamy. We're not cooking this and deep frying it, so you don't want to use a lot of flour. If we did, you would kind of taste the flour. So we're gonna add 1 egg, and then we're gonna season it with salt and pepper. So just add a pinch. This is about a half a teaspoon of salt, and then a couple grinds of pepper, so about half a teaspoon of pepper here. You can also add other flavorings to this batter too. So if you didn't want to add a sweet item like the maple and Dijon sauce, you can do garlic powder, paprika. You can make this a lot more savory as well. This is a super versatile batter that you can use by just interchanging the spices. So now I'm just gonna take my whisk and just whisk it up. All right, so you just wanna whisk it till the lumps in the flour smooth out, until it looks like you've got a nice thick coating here. It's not gonna be a lot of batter, but you only want a thin layer coating the tenders, so it doesn't need to be sopping in this thick maple Dijon batter. All right, so we have our batter. Now we're gonna dredge. So we're using the 2-step dredging method, 1 tender at a time. Use your tongs, dip it right into the batter, give it a flip. All right. And just to make sure there's just a really thin layer, I like to kind of tap it on the side of the bowl, and you can see how that extra batter is sticking to the bowl and it's not staying on my tenderloin. So I'll do it to both sides. Now, for the panko, right in there. And I kind of like to shake the bowl around and watch the panko kind of just stick on its own to the tenderloin. You can use your hands now because it doesn't look like we're gonna get any batter stuck to our fingers, which is where you get the mess. So now you have a chicken tenderloin breaded in toasted panko breadcrumbs. We're gonna lay them right on this sheet pan here, and then we're gonna repeat that process to all of these tenderloins until we've got them all coated and ready to go in the oven. So we've got our last chicken tender coated in the panko. So I'm gonna let this sit here for a minute while I get the veggies ready, because we're actually gonna put this all in the oven together. We're actually gonna use the same sauce that we used to flavor the batter for the chicken tenders. We're gonna use it for a glaze for our vegetables. We've got the fennel and the carrots here that we've already peeled, cut and prepped, ready to go. And we've got a sheet pan here. I'm leaving this unlined because I really wanna get a nice hot sear onto the vegetables. So I'm just leaving the sheet pan as is. Pour a little olive oil right over the vegetables. I'd say about 2 tablespoons. You wanna get all the sides of the vegetables coated. So just drizzle that over. I eyeball, but you can surely use a measuring spoon. We're gonna season it with about a teaspoon of pepper. I do like to add a little bit more pepper to this, just because it adds a nice little bite to these vegetables. All right, and then we're gonna add about a teaspoon of salt as well. And now we're just gonna toss them onto this sheet tray. I wanna try to get them in an even layer on this sheet pan so they cook evenly. And if I have to move them around, I will. The majority of these vegetables are laying directly onto the sheet pan. The last thing I'm gonna do here before I put them in the oven is drizzle them with a little bit of this maple Dijon glaze that we made, just over the top, just like this. And the reason that I'm not tossing them in the glaze is because there's a lot of maple into this, and if too much of it gets directly on the sheet pan, we might have a little bit of burning, but don't worry, it won't catch fire. It'll just get a little bit too dark. So now these vegetables and the chicken tenders are ready to go into a 425-degree oven for about 25 minutes. We'll flip the vegetables about halfway through. We've let everything bake off in the oven. I'm gonna check the temperature of the chicken just to make sure that it's ready to go. So we want this temperature to read 165 degrees, then we know it's done, and I've only stuck it about halfway through the chicken tender. And this one looks like one of the bigger ones, so we should get a pretty accurate read. Vegetables look ready to go. Just the last few touches here. Okay, now we are going to try our end result. All right, listen to the crunch. It's so good. Let's try a vegetable. Fennel and carrots. This combo together is awesome. Super easy. It cooked together. Bring this to an event. Everyone's gonna love it.
Are you looking for more product advice and wisdom from me?
Or me?
Or me?
Hit that subscribe button or head over to thedesirecompany.com for more classes, how-tos, and reviews.